Good morning, writers. Let's get started today by filling out our writing learning intentions. Make sure you have today's date written in. And then today as a writer, I am working on developing more complex ideas. So yesterday we looked at patterns that underlie our stories, and today I want to teach you that in order to grow our more complex ideas, we have to think about how most things in life are not just one way, that they are complicated. It is important to know that people are not just one way, that they change, and also that no one is only mean or only nice. Instead, most people are a number of things all smushed together. So we need to take this into consideration when reading our stories and try to see our characters in a more complex way. So as I had mentioned yesterday, one way that we could have improved the essay that Catherine wrote about Dog being a good friend would be to bring in a more complicated idea about the text. More complicated ideas take into account more than one side of a text, or an issue, or a person. And sometimes more complicated ideas are not just about a single character, but about life itself. So let's take a look at a chart with tips for developing more complex ideas. One thing we want to understand is that things are never just one way. Something that seems all good or all bad is probably more complicated. We also want to understand that what things appear to be on the outside isn't necessarily what they are on the inside. Also, we want to understand that things change across a story. Characters change, people's responses change, and all of those changes are at the heart of the story. Finally, we want to understand that when a character acts in certain ways, the author is probably trying to show that in life, some people act in those ways. Let's take a look at that thesis idea of Dog is a good friend. If we want to develop more complicated ideas about Dog being a good friend, let's see if one of these tips can help us. I think the first one might be able to help us to know that things are never just one way. So we know that maybe Dog is not just a good friend, but we need to think a little bit more deeply about this. Okay, so I need to think about how Dog being a good friend might not be all good. Let me test that thought out. Maybe you could say he's foolishly a good friend, that he trusts people who maybe shouldn't be trusted, like Fox. Maybe I could say that Dog learns that being a good friend, no matter what, gets you nowhere. This is tough. Now I'm thinking back to what I know about Dog to see if that can help me spark some thoughts about the fact that he can't just be one way. So I'm remembering that he's blind in one eye. I'm getting an idea about this. In a way, Dog was blind to let Fox in, and maybe that blindness ended up hurting Magpie. Maybe if Dog was a little more observant and thoughtful about Fox, he might have sent Fox away like Magpie had wanted. I'm wondering if maybe the idea that Dog is a good friend, but also an unseeing friend, might be a good idea. I could also maybe change it to say Dog is a good friend, but he is not observant. Or maybe, to be a good friend, you need to be not only caring, but also observant. Notice how I started with something that was very specific about Dog, and then thought a little more about how maybe Dog could be more than one way, and here he's a good friend, but also an unseeing friend. Got even more specific here and said he is not observant. And then in this last one, to be a good friend, you need to be not only caring, but also observant. It could apply to more than one story. It wouldn't necessarily just apply to the story Fox. Now, boys and girls, I want you to open up your binder to the pages you wrote yesterday working on digging deeper for patterns in your stories. Give a thumbs up when you have it open to that writing. We're now going to take a look at some sentence prompts that will help us dig deeper into complex ideas. So the first one is, so-and-so is blank on the outside, but on the inside, blank is. Or, when I first read about so-and-so, I thought he or she was blank, but now I know him or her better. I realize that deep down, he is or she is blank. Here's another one. My ideas about blank are changing. At first I thought he or she was this way, but now I'm starting to think he or she really is this way. And finally, my ideas about so-and-so are complicated. On the one hand, I think this, and on the other hand, I think this. I want you to look back through some of those notes you wrote yesterday and think about one of these sentence starters and grow your idea even more complexly using one of these. Turn and talk to your partner and share your thinking. So today, as you go off and write, you will be looking back at your story and looking back at your writing from yesterday and trying to grow even deeper thoughts about that writing. Use these sentence starters to help you develop more complex ideas. And make sure today, just as we were yesterday, that you will be doing lots and lots of writing about your reading. Make it a great day.